What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a brand new video. And we've got ourselves a Mercedes C220 AMG. So what I'm going to do is show you around the car. You can have a good look, see what you think, and then we can talk a bit why we've ended up with this one. So there you go. We'll take a look on the inside now that we've had a look on the outside. We've got the half leather, half suede interior in this with the really nice red stitching. I believe the car's done, as you can just see, probably in there. We've got 57,000 miles on the clock. This one's a category N. It's got no bodywork damage at all, but we've got some damage with the engine, because if we just pop back quickly to the ticket on the front here, if you can just see it there, but we've got water flood damage. So as you can see inside, as we work our way round, we've got dirt and grime and bits and pieces in there. They did have a load of under trays and stuff from where they've been doing some work on the car, I think, to potentially look at the engine and what's then written it off. But as you can see, we've got all the trims and bits and pieces in there, and the air filter as well, which does look like it's had some water in there because we're getting a bit of mould in there. So yeah, we have fortunately got all the trims and bits and pieces that they've taken off, either under the car or underneath the bonnet there. So we've got all the AMG styling on this one. We've got the diamond cut wheels. As I said, we've got the half leather, half suede interior, all the red piping and stitching in there. We've got all the xenon headlights, which is great. We've got loads of bits and pieces in there. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll pop this one in the workshop, then we can start having a look at the engine and what we're going to need to do to figure this one out. And now I'm just going to make a start on looking for anything obvious, any signs of any water inside the engine bay. We'll do a few checks. As I mentioned, it looks like somebody's already made a start on doing those bits, because they've taken the air filter out. They've also taken out some induction piping up here. Looks like the engine cover as well is missing, and the ECU's all loose here, which is on top of the airbox. So I'm just going to go ahead, take the oil dipstick out and have a quick look. So I don't know if you can make it out on the camera there, but the oil level is quite high. Just clean that off. So the oil level's up around here, but it doesn't look as if it's gone creamy or anything like that. It didn't look particularly thin. I know a lot of modern vehicles run thin oil now, but yeah, it looked to be fairly okay. As I mentioned, there wasn't any signs of any water or anything in there. So it's just going to be a case of having a look round. I've got the battery on charge as well, because the battery was flat, so I'm just giving that a good charge as well. What I'm probably going to do, because it's such easy access here, I'm just probably going to put a socket and a ratchet on the crankshaft there and just see if I can get it to turn over. If I can't, then what I'll do next is probably take the injectors out, and then I can look either down into the cylinders, or what I can do potentially is squirt a little bit of oil down there and then see if I can get it turning over by hand. And then that way, with the injectors out, obviously I haven't got quite so much compression. And then that way it will allow me to see if I can turn it over by hand. And then if I can't, then obviously we need to have a look a bit further into it and see what's going on. So yeah, I'll grab a ratchet quickly, and then what I'll do is point the camera down there. We can have a quick look at trying to turn that by hand. So we're just having a quick look, see if there's anything obvious, any signs of water around there at all. I am having to hold the camera as well, because where I've got the tripod at this angle, it wants to try and fall over. So I'm going to pop that torch on there. I've got a ratchet on there, and we're just trying to turn that over, and it's not having any of it. No. See if we can go backwards. No, it doesn't want to go backwards either. No. So what I'm going to do next is just pop the car up on the ramp, just so that it's at a bit better working height for me. And then what we can look at doing, as I mentioned, is just popping out those 4 injectors and seeing if we can see anything obvious down there. I haven't got a boroscope, so it's probably going to be quite a challenge to see if we can see anything down there, because the holes for the injectors are really small. But if we can't, then, as I mentioned, we'll pop a bit of oil down there and see if we can free it off like that. So I just thought what I'd do is, while I've got the car up on the ramp, I would just have a quick look round, take off the remaining under tray, which is for the automatic transmission here. And the idea behind that was just so I could have a look up in and around the engine, just to see if there's any signs of anything obvious, potentially if it has bent a con rod or something like that and it's decided to leave the engine block. I just wanted to have a look. There weren't any signs of oil. You know, normally if it does something like that, you get quite a bit of oil on the under trays. But yeah, I didn't see anything. So we'll drop it back down and then we can have a look, popping those injectors out. Just before I drop the car back down, one of the other things I'm going to do quickly is I'm just going to pull off one of the pipes to the intercooler, just so I can see if there's any water or anything in there. We've got a bit of something coming out. Yeah, there's a tiny little bit of water coming out. Nothing drastic, it's not pouring out. Clip all that back in. Actually, might leave that off for the moment, just so that if we do manage to get it started, then hopefully it will push any water, any excess water that's in the intercooler or any of the pipe work out. So we'll leave that as it is for the minute. What I have done is I've just gone ahead and just numbered these, just so it makes it easier when putting the stuff back together, and the same with the injectors as well. The injectors are coded, so I just wanted to make sure that basically I put them back in where they came from. I can code them back in, that's not a problem, but it's just something you don't necessarily need to do if you just take the time to just mark them before you take them out. Before I go any further and I start disconnecting this part of the loom, just so I can release this up a little bit and get to those injector pipes, I'm just going to disconnect the battery. I should have done that in the beginning, but I didn't. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead now, disconnect that, because I want to take this main wiring plug out of the ECU. And I think maybe this other one here, just as I say, so I can lift this up a bit. Now just releasing the leak off pipes. They've got like a little plastic tab that you pull up first. So just be really careful with these, take your time, because they can become quite brittle. And then you should be able to just gently work those out. There we go, just like that. And they've got a little rubber seal sits on the end. And we're just going to undo the top bolt for each injector. And these are a stretch bolt as well, so if I do get it running today, fingers crossed, then I'd just pop these back in for the moment, but I would be looking, before I'd completed the repairs on the car, I would be looking to change these and also the injector seals as well. just like that there. And then what I'm going to do is just make sure I leave these standing up when they're in storage. So I'll go ahead and see if I can pop the other 3 out. So here is some very wishful thinking. And I'm just going to try and see if I can see anything down there. Might have to get in. On the top of cylinder 4, it looks as if the piston, from what the tiny bit that I can see, it looks as if potentially maybe it's been washed by the water, because it just looks fairly clean. But yeah, it's a real, and again that one there potentially, but yeah, it's certainly not easy to see. So I think what I might do, see if we can squirt a bit of some fluid down there, and then if we can get that to turn, we'll try our luck. So I've just sprayed some penetrating oil in each one of the cylinders down the injector holes there. I really don't know how well that's going to work, because in the centre of the pistons on the diesel vehicles, you've got the little sort of chamber in the centre there. So it may well be that I've just sprayed it directly into there. Because obviously you've got the injector, which is about that long, and then you've got, obviously that's got to go down through into the cylinder head, into the cylinder. So yeah, I can't really angle the spray nozzle on the spray can other than just directly down. So yeah, we're just going to have to try our luck and see if that works. It may well be that we spray a bit more. Maybe we could fill those little bowls up in the pistons, let it seep across and see if that does anything. We'll give it a try. I'm going to just lever gently on the ratchet that I've got here and just see if that does anything to free it up at all. I'll work it back and forth and see if that does anything. So just sort of give you a quick update of where I've got to. So what we've done, as you saw, we've taken the injectors out. I sprayed a lot of penetrating fluid in there, and I've tried and tried and tried to put a ratchet and a socket down on the bottom pulley there to get the engine to turn over, and unfortunately I haven't had any luck. I don't want to go too mad. These bolts aren't very big. The last thing I want to do is snap one of those off. So if you're doing them anti-clockwise, they just undo, and clockwise, as I say, I don't want to break anything off. So just to give you a bit of a closer look in there, there's a little bit of oil and stuff, penetrating fluid, where we've sprayed all of that in there, but yeah, we haven't had much luck. So I think the next thing is we're going to need to start dismantling some of this stuff out of there so that we can look at getting the engine out. So the guys needed some space in the workshop, so I've brought the car back out. Luckily the weather's nice enough to do so, and it's been a little while since I've worked on the car anyway. So what I'm going to do, as I mentioned just a moment ago, is start making preparations to get the engine out. If I had the vehicle still on the ramp, it may well be that I might not approach it in this way, but what we're going to do is just start taking all the turbochargers and bits and pieces out of the way here and just get anything off that we can up the top here. I'm going to look at taking the front end off when I can get it back on the ramp, or if I can't, then I'll take the front end off on the floor, and then we can do all the work and bits and pieces underneath. And then what we can look at doing is pulling all the engine out with the gearbox in one go, because I want to service all the gearbox, as I may well have mentioned earlier. I want to get that all serviced while that's all out, and we strip down the engine and investigate that. So what I'll do is I'll pop it on a time lapse, take a fair few bits and pieces off, and then we can cut back in and you can see where we've got to. Just gone and popped all of the wheel arch liner out here. That's going to give me access to the bolts that hold the front bumper on. So just up where it meets the wing here, I've got 2 self-tapping screws that hold that on. So what I'll do is repeat the same process the other side, and then we can look at pulling the front bumper away from the car. So that's the headlights out, and that's going to give me access to these 4 bolts along the front here, and then I can pull that crash bar out the way. So we've now managed to get all the bits and pieces, the hoses and so on, that basically hold this front assembly on. So now we can look at taking all of this off and getting all the access into the engine there. One thing I am doing as well is, just as I go, where possible, I'm just either putting the bolts back in the item itself, or the component itself, or I'm just laying it with the bits that I've taken off. That was nice and close to the ore bucket. Does look like we're going to need to replace the water pump, because that looks like it's leaking. So that's something that we'll note later when we take the engine apart. So we can tuck that up there with that as well. That can go down there, right out of the way. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go lay underneath, spend a bit of time under there and see if I can get those bits sorted underneath, so that then we can come back up here get bits finalised, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we've got everything to be able to pull the engine out. So I just want to introduce you to the newest member of the team. Hopefully now we're all ready to rock and roll, get the engine out. So I've undone the mounts on the bottom, I've undone all the bits and pieces on the gearbox there, I've undone one of the DPFs, or the cat, moved that out of the way, taken the linkage out of the way, all the wiring and bits and pieces for the gearbox as well, so we should be all good to start pulling the engine out. So just going to take it nice and slow, bit by bit. Just keeping an eye on everything. Then I've also got trolley jack up under here, which isn't doing a great deal at this point in time. Case of keeping an eye at the back here. There's just a shield in the back that I've removed, and one of the pipes for that sort of goes across to the heater matrix, I'm guessing. So now we should be okay and have a bit more clearance. So if we shove that over a bit, just so I can pump this a bit easier. Just keeping an eye on everything at the back here, just to make sure I'm not breaking anything. We look to be all clear at the minute. Keeping an eye on underneath. Obviously the sump's got to pass the subframe here as well. So we've got to keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on this lot. We've got the DPF there. Oh, she's coming. She's coming. Try not to slice my fingers off in the process. Still look to be all right there. Just keep an eye on underneath as well. Yeah, we seem to be all right there. Push it back that way a bit. Got to be relatively careful because I am only on axle stands. Oh. Note to self, leave the first exhaust on, or DPF, cat, whatever one it is, one of the two. Oh, ho, ho. Oh. I should now. Can't imagine if they were that easy to get off. As I say, I'm just being really careful and really mindful that this car is also on axle stands, as I mentioned, because I don't want to pull any of this too hard and it ends up all on the floor. Just nice and gentle. Tuck that up there, or up there, any one will do. We are caught on the axle stand with the jack, with the engine crane. So we just give it a bit of persuasion with the bar. Right. There we go. Oh. Oh, might want to glue them on in future. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Engine and box, and that's great. So what I'm going to do now is have a real good clear up and as a sort out, because as you can see, I've made quite the mess. I have started putting some gloves over all of the electrical connectors, just so we don't get any water in there. I'm going to pop the wheels back on, just so that we can push the car around and we don't get any issues there. I'm going to pop the front bumper back on as well, just to make sure that that doesn't get damaged. And then what we will do is obviously eventually we'll have a look at cleaning all of the engine bay here and getting that sorted. But what I'm going to do as well is pop the engine in my van, and then we can take that over to my house, and then we can have a real good look at cleaning that, seeing what's gone on, stripping it all down, getting that repaired, servicing the gearbox, having everything apart and a good once over. Also, what I am going to do is wash my eye out, because it's now full of dirt, and I don't know if you can see on the video, but it's streaming and driving me crazy. So I'll get that sorted off camera, get all of this sorted off camera, and we'll jump back in when we've got the engine in the garage and we have a good look at that.